Victoria, can you folks hear me? Hello? Test, test. Someone could put on the Slack channel that you can.
Yay.
Yay, awesome.
Okay, you're good to go.
Cool, thanks, Davey.
So yeah, just make sure that you monitor.
Can they see me as well?
They can see you, so
awesome.
Give the video over here. Give them a wave. Hey guys.
Hello.
And have fun.
Awesome, thanks, Davey. All right. How's everyone doing today? Thanks for coming in close. I was feeling a bit intimidated just because I have a bit of a cold and my voice is feeling a bit raspy. So yeah, thanks for getting cozy with Career Services. How's everyone feeling today? It's Friday. So everyone's doing good. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. So today we're going to be actually covering resumes. By a quick show of hands, who here has created a resume in the past? I'm assuming probably all of you. Who here has created a developer resume? Kind of? Yeah? Some people with a bit of previous experience. That's awesome. Yeah, so we in Career Services, we assume that most of you are new to development and new to creating developer resumes. So today we're going to be essentially going over how to create a developer resume. It's not crazily different than a resume you would have created in the past, but there's definitely some things that might be new to you. And yeah, really excited to go over some of the points. My presentation style and workshop style is that I really like for it to be conversational and interactive. So we have a few little activities in the presentation today. But I, as always, encourage you to stop me if you have any questions or if anything is unclear. So without further ado, let's get going. Trying to make sure I have my split screens here so I can see Victoria. If you folks have any questions, I'm monitoring that as well. So, all right. So, what we're going to be doing today and in the weeks to come is we're going to be creating a live resume. Who here, by a quick show of hands, has created a live resume in the past? Any no? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so a couple of you. Good stuff. Anyone in Victoria, have you folks, anyone created a live resume? No? Okay, awesome. So this is what, awesome. Oh, a couple people in Victoria have as well. So here are a few tools that we use and that we suggest you try out. Totally up to you. The most popular tool that our grads use is Credle. It's really straightforward. We're going to have an opportunity to play around with this today. The workshop is not super long, but we have a lot of time after for you guys to kind of get started and create a rough draft and play around with these tools. But the first one is Credle. So Credle will essentially automatically create a link. You just have to select publish to unlisted URL. The link will stay the same with updates. You just have to make sure you hit publish on all the changes that you make. In terms of GitHub pages, is very similar. Automatically creates a link, automatically updates when you make changes, and the link will always stay the same. So it's really awesome. They're very similar in many ways. You guys can check them both out, and as well as Canva, which is has some really beautiful templates. It's a little different to Credle and GitHub. In the sense that you have to download it as a PDF and upload it into Google Drive. But again, if you prefer to use Canva, you can also use Canva. It's pretty straightforward for a bunch of devs. So I won't talk too much more about these different tools. This slide I can pull up at the end of the workshop as well, so that you guys can take a look at the websites and just see which one you prefer to use. Any questions on Credle, GitHub, Canva for creating resumes? No? Okay. All right, so what should a resume contain? This actually, with the exception of projects section, probably most of you have all this information in the resume that you have right now. We've actually put this in a specific order. So if you don't have any previous development experience, it's really good to throw your skills, all your technical skills and the projects that you're working on at Lighthouse and that you'll have completed by the end of boot camp at the top of the page to really highlight your development experience. If you do have previous development experience or previous technical experience, we can look to kind of changing that order for you. Right now, for the sake of today and the couple weeks to come, we're going to be creating like a rough draft, and so we encourage you to dump everything on the page, and we can help you trim down. But this is kind of the order that we typically go by for people with no previous experience. So starting off with your contact information, a summary of yourself, your skills, your projects, your education, your work experience, and then optional, if you have volunteer or you're really passionate about certain things and you really want to highlight that in your resume, you can put that as well. The reason we put the skills and projects section at the beginning is because a lot of, I guess, talent acquisition specialists, HR managers will be sifting through hundreds of resumes. And what catches their eye is the top of the resume first. They'll look at things for about 5 seconds and quickly skim. So not to say that your previous experience as an operations manager or whatever your previous experience is not relevant and not transferable to development, but we just really, really, really want to emphasize all of your development experience first so they see that. Any quick questions about the kind of order of how to put this information on a page or on 2 pages? Oh, okay. All right. So the rest of the presentation, we're going to be going each, through each section here. So in terms of contact information, we like to see you folks include your email, your phone number, your GitHub, and your LinkedIn. Some of you may not have a LinkedIn. If you don't have one, we'll have time at the end to create a LinkedIn page as well. And we really, unless we really don't believe that Facebook should be on it or your Instagram, unless you have a dedicated Facebook page or Instagram for your professional persona as a developer, don't include it. And in terms of your email address, we feel it's really important to say if you don't have a professional email address, if your email address is the email address you've had for the last 10 years, that's like super baseball guy 58, just create a simple one with your name, first and last name. I know this is probably pretty intuitive, but we've seen it all. So make sure your email address is straightforward, professional, to the point. And another thing, your phone number, people often forget too, is to kind of audit their voicemail, the voicemail you have on your phone. So maybe you have a goofy voicemail where it's like, can't come to the phone right now, bye. You might want to think of, I don't know, we're all quirky in our own ways, right? So think about if a hiring manager gets your voicemail, how you want to sound. So maybe just revisit if you haven't revisited in a couple of years or whatever. Just make sure that that's reflecting the best version of yourself. And then GitHub, obviously, make sure that your GitHub is up to date. You guys are on that, I feel. And then LinkedIn should be really a total mirror. We're going to be touching on LinkedIn later here in this slide, but that your LinkedIn is updated and optimized. Any questions on the contact info section, what you should include? Any questions on that? No? Cool. So, summary and tagline. What's a summary? What's a tagline? What are you even talking about, Leanne? So the summary section, for the purposes of career services, for all of you who are working with us, the summary's a longer version of kind of your tagline that will live on your resume. We gave you a little example of a tagline here. The tagline is a little bit shorter than your summary, and it's typically 3 to 4 sentences and kind of considered your pitch. The format that you see below here is how I send hiring managers your resume. So if I speak to an awesome hiring manager that's looking for a developer, and I think you're an awesome fit for that role, I will have your name and your resume hyperlinked like that with your tagline below, and that's how I include it in an email format. So you can expand a little bit on your resume and include more, but for the tagline, we like it to be a little bit shorter. Any questions on that? It's essentially a snapshot of you, your experience, key information, your passion, and we're actually going to break out into an exercise now so that you guys can talk about it. And I know you're all super excited to talk about your elevator pitches this morning, but so what do we include in that? So you should be asking yourself, who am I? Who am I? Include your full name, your preferred specialization. Are you really passionate about front-end development, back-end development, full stack? Have a think about that. What do you have to offer? Include your unique experiences. It never ceases to amaze me to see people in our boot camp. The diversity of your backgrounds is really awesome. So I know that you all have really unique experiences before Lighthouse Labs. And then you also have unique experiences here in boot camp in the projects you work on and how you go about it. So what do I have to offer? Why am I interested in your organization or this industry? Use this as an opportunity to demonstrate that you have researched the organization industry. Right now, for this exercise, we obviously can't do that. It's just going to be generic. But when you're doing an elevator speech or pitch for a particular organization, this is something you really want to think about. How am I a good fit with your organization or this industry? Match what you have to offer with why you're interested. So, without further ado, I don't want to talk your ear off all morning. We're going to break out into an activity now. I'm going to give you folks about 5-10 minutes here to pair up. If this makes you feel super uncomfortable and you're like, oh my gosh, are we actually talking about ourselves? This sucks. Most people feel that way when they're talking about themselves, so this is totally normal. I'd encourage you to just have jot down a couple of notes if you want. If not, that's okay too. But pair up and just talk about your elevator pitches. I'll pull this slide up right now of your elevator speech. Who am I? What do I have to offer? Why am I interested in development? And and then we'll circle back and we'll talk about it. And I'm interested to hear some of your elevator speeches. So go ahead. Let's get talking. And Victoria, I'm looking forward to hearing your elevator speeches as well. So pair up, jot down some notes.
I am an ambitious interest. Do you need experiences talking about like the life in general, or?
It can be whatever is relevant to you pursuing a career in development, right? So it can be anything in general, really. It could be your previous experience, what pushed you into coming to Lighthouse and pursue development. Maybe you dabbled into code on a Friday night because your friend told you to. It's totally up to you. Yeah.
Like what led me? Like Hey, okay. Okay. I can just get like was it magnet or I was just fine? What sounds better? I was drawn to this, and I saw the one really appropriate. Like one or the other, but. All right. We're gonna a 1 minute notice. So if you wrap up your conversations or
one minute. Hopefully each of you have had an opportunity to learn something new and share a bit about yourselves, but I'll give you one more minute.
Good at finding errors, but not fixing them. They're different skills.
You know what I'm good at?
All right. The show must continue. So we will have more time at the end to actually work on our resumes. So I just wanted you folks to have a minute to chat and think about your elevator pitches. So awesome. So the next section in your resume, skills. Skills. Let's think about skills. So in the past, I'm assuming for those of you who don't have a technical background, your skills that you would have highlighted in your resume would have been mostly soft skills. Now, this section is going to include soft skills and your technical skills. So we've given you a bit of a little kind of example of how you can lay that out in your resume. So basically, that example right there is how most grads do it. If you have any other languages, frameworks that you've worked with in the past, make sure to include them. A lot of you have dabbled and done some development before Lighthouse or have had some self-directed learning where you've taken courses. Make sure you include that. A lot of grads will, or students will ask us, should I put this, should I put that? And we're like, yeah, of course, yes, you should, yes. And they're like, oh, well, I don't know, I'm just not an expert at this or expert at that. And we're like, that's okay. That's okay. If you've taken a course or you've learned it, throw it on your resume. When you're in an actual interview and you're asked about it, you can talk about your level of experience with it. You're not saying that you're a master at this or that. It's just saying, this is my experience and I know these things. So make sure you kind of think about all of the languages, frameworks, systems that you've worked with and to include them on your resume. The more the merrier. And yeah, so this, I feel this section is pretty straightforward. Any questions on this? Yeah, Anthony?
I find that so my previous job, I would look at resumes sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be very painful to see skills that were this long. I preferred when I saw skills that were 2 or 3. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, did you see, I guess it depends on the level of experience. I guess if someone's really, really, really senior and they have pages and pages, you might want to be a little more succinct and focus on your strengths. But for those of you, I'm assuming that you have what we're teaching here at boot camp and then maybe a few other additional things. But for the sake of the resumes that you're building out here with us, I'd say don't pick and choose right now. We're going to be doing a rough draft, and we're going to be able to provide you with some feedback on maybe things you should keep and things you should cut. But I'm assuming probably most people don't have that much that would take up that much space. But yeah, and depends on the position you're applying for. And my personal belief is if you're someone with 20 plus years of experience, maybe your resume is a little bit longer than someone who's newer in their career. Yeah, that's a great question.
I guess lots of jobs, we're definitely going to be curating resumes to jobs based on what they're looking for, I imagine. They want oh, we're looking for people with this framework for this job. You don't put on the other frameworks usually as much. You don't flood it with all the skills if you know what company they're looking for. But if they are looking for certain things, they don't mention it. Should we have our things in alphabetical orders? They can if they're looking for a certain skill, is there a way to make it easier for them to find that skill without just listing all your skills
Yeah, like this?
here?
I think it'd be really cool if you did alphabetical order. I've never thought about that, but that's awesome. I'm trying to understand the question. So the question is, how do we make it easier for a hiring manager to find the skills that they're looking for? Yeah. Yeah, and you're saying that you're tailoring your resume for jobs you're applying for. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's really, really important to tailor your resume when you're applying for a position. I don't think you need to, put your skills in alphabetical order, but definitely tailor it to what they're asking for when you're applying for positions on your own. So I should also mention to all of you, you're creating a resume for myself and Kelly to have after you've left boot camp, and you'll be using your own resume for your own purposes when you're applying for positions, right? For the resume that you're putting together for us at Lighthouse, we like kind of your generic, the thing that really, really showcases your skills and your strengths, and is just kind of your generic template resume. But for your own purposes, definitely go that extra mile and tweak it so that it fits the job description as best as you can. Does that answer your question?
Well, that's why I
Yeah.
was like, because we're creating a more general form for you, we're not making it like more organized for them to find. You don't have all our skills in there. Like, oh, like you're saying of companies that definitely want to intern for such and such skills, like would having a more like easier a general form for employers to find because this is such all your skills already to find the ones that match the role in the situation. So
Okay. Yeah, we can chat more about it at the end of the workshop if you want, in terms of like your specific resume and what to include. I'm still not understanding the question, unfortunately. Yeah, no, it's so you're just asking about, do I include all of the stuff that we cover in boot camp? Yeah.
You're saying that we are going to include all of our relevant skills
Yeah.
into this list for a general form for you and Kelly to send out.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, is there ways in which to make it more organized because it's a general form, so that when employers look at it or hiring managers look at it, they can find the relevant information without having to sort through a list of unorganized.
Well, I think the format here that we have works really well. Oh, yeah, it works really well. Just this kind of template. I find that I've never had employers say, this is a lot of work for me to sift through. I think that hiring managers that are looking at resumes know where to find the information. It's pretty succinct and organized like this.
Do they use software to sort through resumes?
When I connect with hiring managers, your resume is not going through an applicant tracking system. It's not going through that. It's actual eyes looking at the resume. For my purposes for career services through Lighthouse Labs. When you're applying for positions on your own, obviously they're probably going to go through an applicant tracking system. But for us, no. Yeah. And generally the feedback is these resumes are great. Thank you so much. I've got all the information I need. So I would say follow this template for now for the resume that you can create for Lighthouse. Does that make sense? Awesome. Great questions. Okay, and so onto the project section for your resume. So for most of you, there's probably a good chance that you don't have any previous projects on your existing resume, and this will be a new section that you'll be adding. We see with a lot of our grads, this is often the biggest section, and we love to highlight the projects that you've worked on in boot camp. So below, we've included an example of how you can format this. This format works really, really well. Just kind of the name of the project, the tech stack that you've used, and a short summary of what you did with that project. One thing to note, it's really important to make sure that it's hyperlinked to the GitHub repo and to keep it updated. In terms of what you would include for when you completed that project, just including the month and year is good for the resumes that you're creating. And yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Any questions on projects? No? Awesome. Okay, next sections would be education and work experience. So for the education section, obviously include your Lighthouse Labs web development diploma in the education section. If you have any previous degrees, include those. If you have other relevant courses that you've taken online, I would definitely advise including that. There's a really awesome way you can do that. Is sometimes people are like, oh, I've done all these courses. You can put it as self-directed learning and include the coursework that you've done on your own time, and that's a really great way to include it on your resume. If you're not sure how to format it, we can look over it together and it can kind of show you. But yeah, definitely really nice to include all of your previous education in your resume. In terms of your work experience, I think this is probably pretty straightforward for most of you. Highlight all the responsibilities that are relevant to being a good developer. Being a good developer is not just having those technical skills, it's having soft skills like communication, oral and written communication, client relations, teamwork, all these things. If you've worked in a collaborative environment, if you've worked within a multidisciplinary team, if you've managed people, if you've helped achieve if you've helped an organization achieve certain results, you want to make sure to include that in your resume. And it's always good to include, when you're putting your work experience, the length of time and how long you were there. So year, month, when you started, when you concluded your time there. Writing bullets. So writing bullets are really, really, really difficult for most people. It's kind of one of those things that makes you want to pull your hair out. You're like, I was doing, this particular role, but I was doing so many things. How do I put that in a bullet form? So our personal belief when it comes to resume writing is show, don't tell. So using concrete or quantifiable information in these bullet forms really tells the story more than just kind of, really tells the story. So ways you can do that is including numbers. So number of hours you worked, number of people you worked with, percentages. Say, for example, you increased you increased profits by whatever percentage. Maybe you don't have that exact percentage, and that's okay. Guesstimates are fine, but just not inflating them so that it's like this outrageous number. Don't do that on your resume because you might get called out. So guesstimates are fine, but just don't inflate. Money, you can always use money in terms of quantifiable information on your resume. We can definitely look at, myself and Kelly, look at your resumes and give you feedback on your bullet points, and happy to kind of discuss that with all of you if you have any specific questions. But here's kind of a format we find works really well. So here are a few examples. Provided quality customer service while managing dining experience for up to 30 customers at once. So this is kind of us using that quantifiable information by using 30 customers at once, action verbs, managing, providing, the skill you were using, customer service. Another great example is collaborate with management and users, develop e-commerce strategies to increase traffic by 20%. That's probably a guesstimate, right? As long as it's not inflated, that's great. Another example we have up here, created new order taking system, decreasing guest wait times by an average of 2 minutes. So totally, we understand that these are really hard to create for the roles that you were in previously. It's super normal for this to take quite a bit of time and to kind of break your brain a bit. Yeah.
What if you have projects like outside of Lighthouse that you've done? How do you include those?
Okay. Yeah. So.
So not just dev, just like other projects, like you started something or you created this, or.
Yeah, I would include those projects in your project section. Depending on the nature of the project, you might have it formatted differently than kind of your dev projects here at Lighthouse. We can look at your previous projects and kind of advise on how we would format it, but I would definitely include it in your project section and try and keep it a consistent length. so that it doesn't look like, one project's like 2 sentences long and then the next is like a novel. But definitely happy to kind of look at that. But yeah, awesome that you have other project work that would be relevant to, development careers. Another question? No, that's just to kind of emphasize the action verb, the skill, the task. Yeah, but actually, I have seen people do that. I would keep it just normal. A great question. Any other questions, Victoria? Any questions from you folks? Okay. Okay, so hidden experience. This slide is just a slide outlining, it's a few different bullet points of things that people have in the past not included in their resumes, and then through career services office hours have shared like, oh, well, I was actually coding before Lighthouse, and we're like, why didn't you include that in your resume? Or I have previous background in STEM. We're like, why didn't you include that in your resume? So these are all just a couple of random bullet points of, if you have this previous experience, definitely include it on your resume. If you have previous experience with working with other tech tools, we use Photoshop as an example, include that. It's really awesome to have. If you had worked in a non-tech role but worked at a tech company, include that. Previous work experience, soft skills, include your soft skills. If tech-related volunteer work, make sure to include it for sure. Tech-related learning experience, that we kind of touched on that with this self-directed learning. Previous projects, you just asked that, Anthony. And last but not least, passion. So make sure you include the passion you have for development in your resume in your summary section, and you convey that passion you have for development. Yeah, this is really just a slide to say that all the previous experience you have right now, we want to see on your resume. We're happy to help you trim down, but and the resume that you have right now, that your most recent resume, may not have all of your previous experience. So what I would say is use your existing resume, brain dump all the information, everything you've done to date, and then next week when we actually do our peer review resume workshop with Kelly, we'll help you trim out and tweak and kind of trim out things that we think shouldn't be left, and just give you a better sense. Better to start with everything and trim down than to try and make those decisions on your own, because sometimes students leave out stuff that is super awesome and really relevant. So that's really what this slide is just trying to say. Any questions on that? Awesome. Oh, yeah, sorry. I think as far back as you can go for the question, sorry, I think Victoria probably would have had a hard time hearing. The question is, how many years back should we go with our previous experience? So put everything as far back as you can go for now. We'll take a look at the experience that you have, and if it's something that's 10 years ago and really not transferable skills, we may say, cut that, that can go, this can go. But I would say start with everything, because there's a good chance that you've done something, even if it's 6 years ago, that was really, really relevant, that would really be a value add to your resume. So start with as far back as you can go. Yeah, great question. Oh, awesome, thank you. Okay, the question is, I think Vancouver might have already asked this, but I missed the answer. Is 2 pages considered the maximum? Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, 2 pages is the maximum for sure. Anything beyond 2 pages becomes a novel, and unfortunately, a lot of hiring managers don't have that much time to look through a resume. And also, assuming that most of you will be applying for kind of junior positions, For junior positions, I don't think you need more than 2 pages, and they probably won't spend that much time. So 2 pages is definitely the maximum. Great question. Another question coming through, it seems, from Victoria. Or maybe not. Okay. Okay, so action items. So next week, oh, sorry, a question is coming through. Question from Victoria saying, in the past, I would have customized the resume I passed on. Is there a way that we can do that? Lloyd, do you mean passed on to career services? For career services purposes, the resume you'll be creating for us? Yeah, so for specific employers that career services would submit your resume to? Am I understanding the question correctly, Lloyd? Yes, okay. Awesome, so the question is, can you send customized resumes for specific employers that I'm chatting with? Unfortunately, that becomes very, 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 very complicated for us internally. So we ask you to create kind of a generic resume, one that really highlights all of your strengths. And yeah, so the short answer is, unfortunately, no, we don't do that. We just use your the one resume, and if you do make changes to it, then we will receive your changes because you're creating a live resume. If you, say for example, after boot camp, you decide to work on a project and you really want to add that, we're going to have the link to your resume, so we'll have received those changes. But we can't, unfortunately, for every single job that becomes available through kind of relationships we have, we can't give you that job description and give everyone the opportunity to tailor their resume and revamp it for it, just because it becomes really, really kind of complex internally. Does that answer your question, Lloyd? Okay, awesome. Perfect. So in terms of action items, your resume link, tagline, and kind of rough draft are due next week. Kelly is the one. She is our resident resume expert. She's truly a resume guru. I kid you not. I'm not just pumping her tires. I've seen this woman in action, and she's amazing at providing feedback. So Kelly's actually the one that reviews them. During career services office hours, if you'd like for me to take a look at them as well, I'm happy to provide you with some feedback. But the resume peer review resume workshop is next Wednesday. So we have about an hour this morning to go through that as well. And if you have any questions, you can contact Kelly through email or Slack. She's out of town right now for a family member's wedding, but she's back on Monday, and we're going to be doing that together. This is just a slide for LinkedIn because we have a lot of questions about LinkedIn and what should be included on if you have a LinkedIn profile already. If you don't, really, LinkedIn should be a reflection of a mirror of what you have on your resume. Oh, awesome, thank you. One more question from Victoria. Should we include references on the resume, or is that not standard anymore? Yeah, no, don't include references on the resume for the one that you create for career services. We don't require that, and employers actually don't ask for it. They may ask for it once they've requested an interview or asked you for an interview after you go through the interview process, but for the sake of the resume that you're creating, you don't have to include any references. Does that answer the question, Caitlin? Awesome. Okay, so LinkedIn. Not many people use LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn, so I'm always like, come on, it's such a missed opportunity. There are so many people on LinkedIn that you could be connecting with, or engaging with, or following, or whatever. So, and also, when you look in this room, both here in Vancouver and in Victoria, and you look to your left, you look to your right, you're sitting in a room with developers, right? You're all going to go find employment in cool companies. I would think you would all want to connect with each other and keep in touch. So I would encourage you all, actually, I'm going to demand that you all connection request each other. We're also on LinkedIn. Lighthouse Labs staff members, our instructors, our mentors work for cool companies. Leverage that network. Create your profile. Think of what your online brand is, because it's such a passive way to job searching. Think of how you want, how you want to present yourself. Are you corpo dev, or are you cool startup relaxed dev? That can be conveyed through a headshot, a picture, wallpaper, how you, what the experience you showcase on your LinkedIn profile. And that's just so many HR managers, talent acquisition specialists, recruiters live on LinkedIn. So I would really encourage you to use this platform, endorse each other. If you've worked with someone in this room and you thought they were a dream to work with and you were so impressed with their skills, endorse them, right? A recommendation, give them a thumbs up, give them a high five. It really, really goes a long way. You can also turn on, for those of you who don't know or don't have it yet, there's also a way of letting recruiters and hiring managers know that you're on the job hunt. So you can toggle that on, and then recruiters will be like, I'm looking for a web dev right now. And they have, special kind of premium versions of LinkedIn that will actually allow them to find candidates. So I definitely encourage you to use that to your advantage when you leave boot camp. And while you're in boot camp, can you imagine a recruiter reaching out to you, or a hiring manager reaching out to you 2 weeks before you graduate saying, I'd love to interview you, and get in a job right before you even hit the job market, right? So we can take some time after this. I'm gonna give you guys an option to either work on your resume or work on your LinkedIn, but definitely use this tool. And also another quick thing with regards to LinkedIn. I know we're talking about resumes, and now I'm talking about kind of securing interviews, so it's a little ADHD of me, but not a bad idea to follow companies that you think are really amazing in Vancouver that you would love to work with. The tech scene in Vancouver is, and from my understanding in Victoria, really inclusive, really warm, really friendly, host a ton of open houses. It's just such a miss if you're not up to date on what's happening within that organization. It gives you such a leg up if you know that they're hosting an open house at the end of the month, or a hackathon on the weekend, anything like that. Any information you have about them and opportunities where you can go connect in person with someone is gold, right? It's not that applying for jobs online is not effective, that's also effective, but when you do both things is really when magic happens. I'm sorry, that was such a cheesy line, but that's when magic happens, folks. It really does. I've seen it. So that's my little plug on LinkedIn. I think I went on longer than I should have. Perfect. It concludes our presentation on resumes. There's not much more I want to touch on, just that right now, I want you all to either quickly create a LinkedIn profile or start working on your resume. We have about an hour to do so. I'm going to be hanging out here. For you folks in Victoria, I'm here on Slack monitoring it as well. So you guys can all break out, get building, and if you have questions about resumes, That's super normal. I'm here to answer them. Don't freak out. We have a couple of weeks to work on your resumes and polish them up, make them look amazing. I'm really excited to see what your backgrounds are, because for most of you, I don't actually know. And this is what makes my life and job really, really fun, is to see what you've done during boot camp, before boot camp. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, can't emphasize this enough. Throw everything on. Don't cut things out. We'll let you know what we think is relevant, and we can advise and make some suggestions for you. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. And yeah, that's it. You guys can break out and get building. Oh wow, the clapping. I truly feel like Oprah Winfrey today. Thanks everyone, this is awesome. So any final questions from anyone? Victoria, Vancouver? Nope. What's that? Oh, awesome, thank you. Atlian, is it possible to get a link to the slide deck you were using for your presentation? Yes, for sure, Graham. Yes, Terrence, I'll send you folks the slides right now so you can use them. And I'm also on Slack. So if questions come up as you guys are building, Victoria, just let me know.